Hello everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Patatronic Plays, a gaming podcast. Today we are going to be talking about God of War. This is by far my most favorite game series ever. It was a toss-up between Paper Mario or this game to be my first episode of the podcast, but I chose Paper Mario because that is my first memory ever, but either way you can go listen to that one. That's already up here on YouTube. And in the future, it'll be up on other platforms as well, but right now I'm only YouTube exclusive for right now. But anyway, you don't want to hear about that. You want to hear God of War, that was originally released in North America March 22nd, 2005 for the PlayStation 2, developed by Santa Monica Studios. Oh, baby, I love this game. This game, by far, it holds up to this day, at least in my opinion. Maybe not the camera system, because not a lot of games nowadays use the overhead, like over-the-world camera. Most of them just use like over-the-shoulder, which the new one does, the God of War 2018, that one does, and Ragnarok when that comes out in November. So I'm excited for that one. There will be a playthrough on my channel, so you can go take a look at that. But we are talking about what started the entire series, the kickoff, the football field goal. And yeah, so we're just going to get right into this. Once again, I got nothing prepared because you know how I roll over here. I just have the wiki up. I will be talking about enemies, power-ups, every area, what I thought about it. And yeah, I'm just going to go through this all and hopefully you enjoy this. Let me know down in the comments as well if you have anything you would like to see implemented in the podcast. In future episodes, I'm going to be doing gaming updates, like news, gaming news, in the upcoming episodes, where I'll have a couple batched episodes recorded to the side, and then when I'm ready to release them, I'll just see what gaming news was released for the week or the day that I record, and yeah, we'll go from there. I'm still new to this solo podcasting stuff, so bear with me for a couple of episodes, and I guarantee we will have a fun old time. But other than that, God of War. You could play this on the God of War collection for the PlayStation 3, and it's also on the PlayStation Plus as well for the PS4 and PS5. But like I said, it originally came out on the PS2. I have played it on the PS2, but for this one, I played on the PS3 for the God of War collection, and I do have a playthrough on my channel. My YouTube channel is mainly for God of War content. That's what it was going to be in the beginning, but I decided against it, because there's only so much I could do with that. I mean, there are going to be ideas that I have for those games that I'm going to do later on in the future, but once I'm done all the God of War games and I'm up to date, I'm going to take a little break from them, and as you can see, I've started trickling in Stardew Valley, Binding of Isaac, and some indie games as well that I'm getting into. But the next God of War game I got to record is God of War Ascension, and then obviously God of War 2018, and then Ragnarok. But the first God of War, where kicked off everything, the journey for Kratos. 10 years you were serving the gods, doing their bidding, going through the Aegean Sea, doing a whole bunch of fun stuff, and killing everyone that they asked you to kill. You were mainly being a servant of Ares, the god of war. So, with all that, Athena asks you to go on a mission to kill Ares because he's waging war against Athens, Athena's city, and they can't get him to stop, so they send Kratos. Only a mortal trained by a god has a chance of defeating Ares, but in doing so, he has to get Pandora's box. And there will be spoilers in this podcast, by the way. So if you haven't played this, I suggest you leave. But if you have played it, please stay around a little bit. I'm about to sneeze, so you get to hear that. If it decides... There it was. All right. So, yeah. That's the premise of the game. And now enemies that you have in this game it's a vast majority of enemies. It's a nice plethora of enemies. So you have what are called legionnaires. Those are just the random skeleton dude guys that you see that serve as a tutorial. in the beginning of the game. So you get to fight those guys. Nothing special about them. They're just very basic enemies. And then you have harpies, or as I like to call herpes, because they spread like wildfire. Get it? That's also a joke because some of them have a power that when they go in the air, they come down and they're on fire and they attack you. It's almost like a kamikaze bomb. But you have harpies as well. Minotaurs. Now this is a very fancy enemy that you can do when you have the circle icon, the action command, as you would pop up above their head. That indicates a mini game, a QuickTime event, dealio, that's in this game. And the QuickTime events are phenomenal in this game. Like, they're on point, everything flows smoothly. But for the Minotaurs, it's different. When you press circle, Kratos mounts on top of the Minotaur, take that as you will, and you press circle like a madman until you shove your blades of chaos down the Minotaur's throat. And then with doing that, you gain health orbs from the Minotaur. Now, the same goes with Gorgons, but for them, they give you magic. And the Gorgons, obviously, they're a pain in the ass to fight sometimes. There's easy ways to go about that in later games. But you originally get Medusa, the first Gorgon that you fight, and you kill her and you get her head, but we'll talk about that later on. So there's another enemy, is the Gorgons. You then have Cyclopses. So obviously big, giant monsters with one eye that you just got to fight. And yeah, self-explanatory. They are big. So sometimes combos won't work as well on them unless you're from a distance and you start attacking and then you turn around and do a combo on them. So it all just comes down to how you want to go about it. Now, Wraiths. Wraiths are pretty dangerous, especially when they're in packs. So those are the enemies that go underground and they have like those blades for arms and they spin around and then they can jump up from underground and stab you. So just block if you see that coming. Just block them when you see them going underground and you'll be A-okay. Now, Sirens, those annoying bitches. And yes, this is an explicit podcast. I should have probably mentioned that in the beginning. But Sirens are very slippery. You first encounter them in the Desert of Lost Souls. And you got to fight them. And their circle for the action command, the QuickTime event, is you snap their back and then they scream and then it sends a shockwave surrounding all enemies and sends them flying backwards. It's a pretty cool move. Cerberus dogs. I hated this first fight with these dogs, especially that giant one. I remember way back when I first originally played this, I had such a hard time with it. I could never get the grasp on it, but eventually I have, and I've beaten the game multiple times, especially on God mode. And Cerberus dogs, they start off small and then they can grow big. You don't want a whole pack of them on the screen when they're big at the same time, because you're just asking to get your ass whooped right there. That's pretty much what that is. And Centaurs, they are pretty vicious enemies, but you are able to launch them in the air for some nice combos as well. If I'm not mistaken, oh no, Centaurs are the guys with horse legs or whatever the heck, and then like a human body torso. So you originally first get introduced to them in the Challenge of Hades, I believe it is. You have to throw them in like a circle, pentagram type dealio to progress in the game. So you have them. Satyrs, that's the one I was thinking of, like the goat type guy that does flips and gymnastics and dips and goes in your ass and whips you across the room and throws you off a platform when you're on a little 2-inch bridge. But yeah, the Satyrs, those guys, they're quite a worthy foe. They're pretty quick, so you got to be a little quicker. And that's pretty much it that they're showing me for enemies. And of course, there is Ares in the game. He's the final boss that you fight. And obviously, Kratos' clones that you come across at the end as well. It's a pretty challenging game with different enemies. And now, power-ups. So you have your Blades of Chaos that you can upgrade throughout. You get power orbs when you defeat enemies and open chests. So you have Blades of Chaos. And I guess I'll just list off the names that everything can learn. You can find them as well in the start menu to check out the combos. I'm not going to tell you the combos for them. I'm just going to tell you the names and what weapon they're used for. So the Blades of Chaos, Icarus Lift, Ascension, Orion's Harpoon, Hades Reverse, Plum of Prometheus, Apollo's Ascension, Apollo's Offensive, Hermes Rush, Hermes Stomp, Cyclone of Chaos in the Air, Spirit of Hercules, Valor of Hercules, Hades Revenge, Raising Helios, Falling Helios, Hermes Fury, Achilles Flip, Lance of the Furies in the Air, Achilles Flip. Did I already say that? Why is that twice? That's weird. I guess they might get an upgrade. I don't know why it's listed here. It says level 5 for the flip. But anyways, and then Might of Hercules. And you also get Rage of the Gods when you first level up your blades. It's pretty much God mode activated. It's when Kratos gets all pissed off and starts dealing more damage than what he would normally do. And then when you're level 4, you get Tempest of the Fates, an extra add-on attack for when you're in Rage of the Gods. And possibly my favorite magic type dealio spell that you get in this game, Poseidon's Rage. I spam that shit like crazy when I play it. It's so cool. I love how it looks. So you can upgrade that 3 times. And you get Poseidon's Rage. You can do it in the air. And then Wrath of Poseidon. And then Medusa's Gaze is when you get, obviously, Medusa's head when you fight her in the gates of Athens. So you got Gorgon Torrent, Gorgon Flash in the air, Gorgon Rage. So pretty much you can freeze enemies, but it does not work on Gorgons themselves, because obviously that would kind of contradict everything. Zeus's Fury, possibly the most worthless power in the entire game. I don't like it, personally. It's just, you're firing lightning bolts. That's pretty much it. So Zeus's Fury, you could do it in the air, and then Might of Zeus. There you go. Blade of Artemis, it's an alright weapon, but I love me the Blades of Chaos, so I always stick with them pretty much. I use the Blade of Artemis if I'm like, wanting to get rid of an enemy in the air. Like you could do a combo where you could throw them in the air and then slam down the blade and send them off a cliff or something. But you got Wrath of Artemis, Revenge of Artemis, Ascension of Artemis, Retribution of Artemis. And then the last power-up is Army of Hades, where you pretty much just have souls that come out of you and attack enemies around you. And Army of Hades, and you can do it in the air when you level up. So now we're going to go through the walkthrough of the game. And I'll give you my opinion on each level as I go through them. So I just have the wiki here up. I'm just going to quick skim through them, talk about it. So the first one is the Aegean Sea. Like I said in the beginning of the podcast here, this serves as a tutorial where you fight enemies that are on the ship and you come across Hydra, which is like the first mini boss, quote unquote, that you have to deal with and kill for Poseidon and his seas. And yeah, it's a very easy tutorial level, very perfect start of the game. I love how they do that with the games too. Like every game after this, it's always like a tutorial level and whatnot. It's perfect. Next chapter is Gates of Athens. So in the beginning, you have a sex scene that you can do. You have to jump on the bed with the 2 naked women, and you press circle, and then you can have at it. have a grand old time. So after you're done pleasing the women, you leave, and now you gotta walk your arse all the way to the gates of Athens. You get Medusa's head there. You're fighting Cyclopses. There's also chests scattered throughout the entire game. I guess I could have mentioned this before I started talking, but you have Gorgon Eyes that increase your overall health. You have Phoenix Feathers that increase your magic, and I do believe those are the only 2 in this game. I could be wrong. I know there is a secret area where you can increase it to the tip of your Blades of Chaos there on the meter in the top left. So you have that. But either way, back to it. So after you finish the Gates of Athens, you then go inside, and now you're on the road to Athens. You are greeted with the Oracle with her boobies out, and Kratos, I guess, to figure out if that's real or fake or an imagination or hologram, he has to reach his hand out and touch her boobie. And yeah, she tells you have to go find her for her to show you the way to kill a god and yada, yada, yada. You see Ares for the first time standing there, and you feel sorry for all the people of Athens underneath him because he's wearing a skirt, so they could just look up and see his junk flopping all over the place. So that's the road to Athens. Now, Athens Town Square, this is where you fight two Cyclops, or three, I guess technically. You have one that you fight, and then two more come down. I've noticed a little trend in this game, and it seems like the other games, is when they introduce a new enemy, they have you fight that one enemy first so you get a feel of what it is and what moves it can do. And then just all of a sudden it drops like 2 or 4 of them as well right after you finish that first enemy. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Anyways, you're going through the road, the town square, and you see this one chick, and she decides to jump off a cliff, or I guess a railing, because she knows who Kratos is and what his past is and what he did, which I will get to it eventually. And she falls, and you get a key, and then you just carry on, and now you're on the rooftops of Athens. You get to see a nice little Easter egg of Ares if you catch it in time with him walking past an area when you're fighting. And this is also when you first fight the Wraiths as well. And there have been many times where I've slipped because of the camera angle and how much my butt clenches whenever I jump across ledges in this game and pretty much any other game. So you got to just be very careful when you're going about that. This is also where you get Zeus's Fury. And once you're done all that, you are now at the Temple of the Oracle, where you find her. She tells you about Pandora's box. It's past the Desert of Lost Souls on Kronos' back, the mighty Titan. So Kratos now has to go and find Pandora's box. So we got to go through the sewer of Athens to leave the Temple of the Oracle. And you have some more enemies that you're fighting down here. And it's pretty much it. You're just fighting them. And then that original area when you came to Road to Athens, where you see Ares for the first time, there was 2 branching paths. The first path, you got to go left, and that's the way you got to go. But then the second path, you go right, and this is where the Oracle opens a door that has an owl on it. So you go through there. And now you're in the Desert of Lost Souls, and this is where you come across the Sirens. And a whole bunch of other stuff. So you fight all the Sirens, you call Kronos with the horn, and then you start climbing Pandora's Temple. And now you are in Pandora's Temple. It's a nice little stormy, like courtyard area that Kratos is in. And then you meet the first guy that tried to attempt the temple but failed and has been sentenced to just burn every warrior that fails. And now you go inside the temple, and now we're at the rings of Pandora. So you have various trials that you got to complete in the temple, pretty much. And you have challenges, like the Challenge of Atlas, which is the next one, where you just got to fight enemies and figure out puzzles. And you go along. Atlas has, obviously, his globe that he holds, and he whips it downwards to uncover an architect's son's tomb, where you take the kid's head, pretty much. Because you got to use it to progress in the game. And then you have the Challenge of Poseidon, where those darn Cerberus dogs are. So you just fight them. And then you have some bigger Cyclops-type enemies there. And then you come across... what are those? What are those guys called? I can't remember what they're called. Those are definitely different, and they weren't in the enemies tab. But anyways, you just fight some enemies, and there's also muse keys, by the way, that you can find. There's 4 of them within the game. I know the location of all 4 of them. Not off the top of my head, kinda. Well, one's in this area, the Challenge of Poseidon, when you have like an overview of Kronos' head. The other one is behind Atlas's statue. The other one is in Hades. Not Hades, sorry, the Challenge of Hades, where you're crossing bridges with spikes trying to knock you off. And the last one, I want to say, is when you're doing the Challenge of Poseidon when you're underwater and you see the naiads that you can kiss. I want to say that's where the 4 are. I can't remember off the top of my head. But when I'm playing the game, I obviously know where to go and how to get them. And then Kratos does a sacrifice. I've noticed one thing that's pretty cool. In the original God of War game for the PS2, it's a civilian that you burn for the sacrifice. But in the God of War collection, they switched it to an undead legionnaire. So I don't know how many people knew that. That's a pretty cool. I don't know why they did it. That's like the only main thing I've noticed that they switched. But other than that, it's pretty good. Pretty good. Now we are at the challenge of Hades, as I mentioned, where you have to kill the centaurs that open the doors. And then you have like a little trial challenge where you fight a whole bunch of enemies to unlock a door. And then you're on top of the bridge platforms that I told you about. And I do believe, I'm just scrolling down here. Oh, yes, this is where you fight that big Minotaur boss. There's a Minotaur boss that you come across, and after you fight him, you get the other architect's son's head to progress in the story more. And then that's pretty much it. The temple will rise after you finish all that, and now you're on the Cliffs of Madness where those satyrs are, where they'll throw you off like those little bridges that I said in the beginning. And that's pretty much it. You just got to go through the cliffs. It's like a little maze type area, and you have puzzles that you have to solve as well. Little time trial area that if you lose time, you will pretty much die. And yeah, after that, you find out, I do believe this is where you find out, even though it's not a spoiler, because I'm going all over the damn place, that Kratos killed his wife and daughter. Ares forced him pretty much. He was blind with rage that consumed him. He didn't see his wife and daughter when he invaded a town, and he killed them. So then Kratos was all pissed at Ares, and this is also another reason why it's good, I guess, for him to have this personal vendetta to go and try and kill Ares to get his revenge. So that gets revealed. And now you're in the Architect's Tomb, where you have to fight some more enemies, do more puzzles, and then you get the Architect's head. And then you come across this little area where when I did God mode, you can see it on my stream that I did. I died so many times because I had a little sliver of health and no magic pretty much whatsoever. So I couldn't do anything. It was just me and my blades dodging and rolling while I had conveyor belts going, harpies coming down on me, archers throwing stuff at me. It was very rage-inducing, but eventually I got it. And after you clear that area, you get Pandora's box. But Ares senses it, and he whips a frickin' pillar all the way across the damn desert. And then Kratos gets impaled against a wall and dies. Yes, Kratos dies. He gets sent to Hades. And now you have this entire ordeal where you have to escape Hades to get back. And I forgot to mention something that you see in the Temple of the Oracle. There's a grave digger that you come across. And he's digging a grave, and he says that the grave is for Kratos. And then once you leave Hades, lo and behold, the guy was right. He dug the grave, and Kratos comes out of the grave. Now, there is speculation. I have searched, and people are saying it's confirmed that the gravedigger is Zeus. So you can take that as you will. But after you exit Hades, you are now fighting Ares. So you fight Ares for the first phase, and then he sucks you up, and then you go into like this nightmare type state where you fight a bunch of Kratos clones, which is probably the hardest fight in the entire game, to be honest. But after you're done that, you go in the third fight, and then it's pretty much easy. I have a short on my YouTube channel where I beat it on the first try, and it was very weird. I didn't even get hit by Ares at all. Like, I jumped out, I did a quick time event, and I pretty much killed him in like 2 hits, I think it was. 2 or 3 hits, something like that. But that's pretty much it. We have secrets in the game as well. So obviously the Muse keys that I mentioned. You only need 2 of them to unlock a chest, or to unlock a door that gives you that secret room that I told you about, where you can fully max out your health and magic. And the room also gives you more power orbs that you can use. And you get unlockables as well. Obviously, you get the credits, the deleted scene, deleted levels, Heroic possibilities, visions of ancient Greece, monsters of myth, the birth of the beast. God mode difficulty is unlocked once you beat the game on either easy, normal, or hard. You have a character graveyard where you see characters that were scrapped from the game. You have Challenge of the Gods, where there's 10 challenges, where it's a pain in the arse, some of them to beat. And then you have the in-game movies, Secrets Revealed, which the secret is, it's not a spoiler at this point, that they tell you Zeus is Kratos' father. And then they have the Fate of the Titan for Kronos. And then costumes are unlocked for the game when you beat it on Challenge of the Gods. Additional costumes. I do believe others get unlocked for God mode. But you have Chef of War, Bubbles, Tycoonius, Dairy Bastard, and Ares Armor. So those are the costumes you can unlock in the game. And that's pretty much it for God of War. It's an amazing game. I have written down my personal opinion, the overall out of 100 points here for the audio, graphics, story, characters, level design, controls, power-ups and items, camera, length, and the fun. So I don't think there's anything else I missed in this game. If there is, feel free to yell at me in the comments. But I don't think there's anything. No. Okay, so we're just going to end this here. So I'm going to go through my list here. I have the numbers all written down and the total tallied up. Like I said, it is one of my favorite game series, but it's not getting a full 100. It's pretty darn close, but not getting a full 100 out of me. So for the audio, I enjoyed the music in this game, the sound effects and all that. Sometimes it can be loud and jarring at certain points, but other than that, I give the audio for God of War an 8. Graphic-wise, I had to think back all the way to 2005 and what it did for the era for gaming. And it's still pretty good, holds up to this day. I could play that game over and over. It looks visually stunning, especially when the cutscenes come in, so I give it a 7. Now, story, holy shit, man, the story. I love the story of this game. How everything all interconnects between every game. It's so amazing, so I gave that a 10. Story gets a 10 from me. Characters get an 8. Mainly because I know there are like some things here and there that they don't follow with mythology, Greek mythology a lot. But they do pretty darn good, so I give it an 8. Level design, I give a 7. There are some levels I could care less about. And the design of them for the platforming could be a little wonky at points, so I give it a 7. Controls, I give a 9. Only because there are some times where it feels like I'm evading way before the enemy attacks, but I still get hit. But I don't know. It could just be the time of era the game came out, so it's not like tight. So that gets a 9. Power-ups and items, they get a 10 from me because I love Poseidon's Rage. Actually, you know what? No, that's going to get a 9. That's getting a 9 from me, so that's going to change my overall rating there. That gets a 9, just because of Zeus's Fury. So it was going to get a 10, but no, it gets a 9. The camera, obviously, like I said in the beginning, it's over the head and whatnot. It's all right. I'm sure it was amazing for its time, but I give that a 6 for nowadays. Well, I have to really think about back then, so it's still 6 for me. The length of the game, it's the perfect length. It's so perfect. It's about, I don't know, in between 5 and 7 hours you could beat this game if you're not looking for everything. But if you're like me and you know where pretty much every secret is when you play the game, you can beat it under 5.5 hours at most, if you don't like die on certain parts. And the overall fun for the game that I give God of War is 10. It is a game that I could keep playing over and over again, never get tired. It is perfect. Also, did I say that the length was a 10? Either way, the length is a 10, but fun, 10 as well. And that rounds up the total for God of War out of 100 for me, 84. I give God of War 84 out of 100. And to be honest, I think that is a fair total. So there you go, everyone. That was episode 2 for God of War. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know down in the comments or reviews. And let me know if there's any games you would like to see. You are given a chance as well to join me on the podcast. And after I play the game, and we could talk about it, and you could tell me what you like about it, and what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it. I am going to be having some guests on future episodes as well, but for the first couple, I want to do by myself to get a feel for it. But other than that, I really hope you enjoyed this. So thank you everybody so much for listening. I will talk to you all next week, Wednesday at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with episode 3. And I do believe we are going to be talking Super Mario Bros. So that's going to be a very short podcast. But other than that, that's all for me. Take care. Bye-bye.